Well, fellas, it looks like Nintendo is about to get even more activist driven, which is rightfully causing a lot of people on social media to show fears of what's to come. Case in point, the people who have been ruining Nintendo's image by pushing for more legal nonsense and lawsuits and concepts like DEI or diversity, equity, and inclusion are now going to have even more power at the House of Mario. So let's start from the top and keep going, because it's a lot. So what started this new wave of fear among Nintendo fans? It was this from Polygon: Doug Bowser to leave Nintendo. Yeah, the former Electronic Arts executive who ran Nintendo of America for the past 6 years is officially leaving the company. He's actually retiring and going to likely enjoy his cushy golden parachute for the rest of his life. Doug Bowser was someone who ran Nintendo of America and allowed many of this activist nonsense stuff to just run amok. Because in case you don't know, Nintendo's American branch is heavy, and I can't stress this enough, heavy into pushing DEI into all of your favorite video games. It didn't start with Doug Bowser, he just allowed it to fester even further, and a good example is back in 2015, as seen here from Eurogamer, when Nintendo's censorship removed breast sliders and character creation for Xenoblade Chronicles X. That's right, fellas, Nintendo took away your right to big booby waifus over 10 years ago, and the censorship has only gotten worse since then. But like I said, Bowser is officially out, so that's good, right? Shouldn't we be, celebrating like the Ewoks in Return of the Jedi right now? Well, not exactly. You see, it was already announced who would become the new head of Nintendo of America, and here's where things get, just let me explain. The new president of Nintendo America is Devin Pritchard. That's this lady on screen here with the insane gum to teeth ratio. Just look at that, Jesus. But anyway, she's been at Nintendo for about 19 years so far, which should mean she's primed for a president's role, right? I mean, this is the first time a woman has been in such a high leadership role in Nintendo. Isn't that great? Well, not really, because Devin, in case you don't know, is kind of insane when it comes to her legal stuff with Nintendo. You see, Devin has been working on the legal side of Nintendo since she started there. She's a master of lawsuits, litigation, and whataboutisms, protecting Nintendo's IP from many others. Sometimes it's warranted, like when Devin Pritchard won a lawsuit against Ghost Cyber Shopping, as seen here from 2017. Via attackofthefanboy.com, Devin Pritchard won that case. To sum it up quickly for you, as also seen here, Devin won Nintendo a $9.5 million lawsuit against this chip maker that was illegally making Nintendo carts of games and then selling them for Nintendo DS and other consoles for profit while cutting Nintendo out of the loop, which is, obviously against the law. As Devin Pritchard said 8 years ago, Nintendo has an established track record that demonstrates our resolve to protect our iconic characters and franchises. Another case Devin won 8 years ago as well, as seen here from IGN, had to do with Quintal Research Group, which filed a patent in 2008 claiming that they owned the right to basically the control scheme of Nintendo-related products like the 4 directional buttons and so on. Apparently, Nintendo never actually patented this before this, so this group did that and then tried to force Nintendo to pay them for the patent license so that they could get money from them, but Devin Pritchard again swooped in and destroyed them, and then Nintendo won the case. Although the irony is not lost on me that Nintendo got really angry here that another company tried to patent what is arguably iterative game design, since when it comes to Pal World and all the lawsuits there that's going on as well, Nintendo has quite literally done the same thing themselves to Pocket Pair recently, claiming that they own the right to say balls capturing monsters, and more recently saying that mods do not count as real games, which is directly meant to circumvent and challenge Pal World's lawsuit protections as well. And if you enjoy the content, please consider doing all the YouTube stuff like liking the video and more. Thank you, but basically, like I said in a previous video, Nintendo really is an evil company. They want to own everything and destroy anybody who challenges them. So this is a long-winded way of saying that the woman who led the charge in destroying Nintendo's enemies via the legal system is now president of Nintendo America. So what the hell happens now, I hear you asking? Well, let's get into that, I guess, now. If you haven't noticed already, Devin is pro-Nintendo in every way and very pro-censorship, which, I mean, doesn't really surprise me, considering many studies have confirmed already that the overwhelming majority of women in the modern world tend to favor censorship over not having it. For example, here's a report from Psychology Today where they discuss studies taken about the gender gap when it comes to supporting censorship or not. As that same survey said, as it reads here, 59% of women said protecting free speech was less important than promoting an inclusive society, while 71% of men felt opposite. And that 2 more recent studies proved as well that women are far more likely to support censorship than not. And why is that? Well, I'll probably sound a little bit sexist here, but women tend to usually vote and agree with the female hive mind more than often than not. And with many women, especially in professional fields now, that are usually liberal-leaning, this tends to also be the case. After all, Collective Shout, for example, which has been devastating game platforms like Steam over the past few months with pushing credit card companies to censor Steam and more, that is also a female-only led activist group in Australia. And they're conservative too, yet still, just like their liberal counterparts, they too definitely favor censorship over personal freedoms. You know it's bad when even the AI overview that Google presents admits that yes, as seen here, that women are far more likely to support censorship over men. So is this just a sexism thing then? Not exactly, no, because there was another big leadership change that coincides with this change in president. And that's the new CEO of Nintendo America, which is this guy on screen, Satoru Shibata. Who's Satoru? Let's get into that now. So Satoru, before he became CEO of Nintendo America, was a managing executive officer and corporate director within Nintendo for many years. And also, and this is key, Satoru has held the position of outside director specifically for the Pokemon company as well. Satoru has been key in creating connections between Nintendo Japan and specifically places like Europe to expand Nintendo's reign. He has spent 20 years or so doing exactly this. He was also president of Nintendo Australia for about a year until they formed a stronger foothold in that region. He was also president of Nintendo Europe for 18 years, from 2000 to 2018. He currently resides in Japan and is apparently low-key and really doesn't like to be seen in public, which I mean, I don't blame him, but behind the scenes, Satoru has been very headstrong on making Nintendo as strong as it can possibly be. But that connection to Pokemon specifically is worrying, considering that Satoru has clearly allowed Pokemon and Game Freak to become DEI infested in recent years as well. And since we've seen Pokemon generally become far less favorable in terms of innovation, but most importantly when it comes to lawsuits, and how egregious Nintendo has been with those lawsuits, which I'll show you in just a second, this paints the picture that with Devin and Satoru, running Nintendo America the way they will, basically you now have two people who are very pro-censorship and pro-lawsuit in control of what is arguably Nintendo's biggest markets. And while I'm not going to accuse Devin Pritchard of this, it should also be said that usually when women are in power in executive roles, they also tend to hire more women under them to enact their policies into the workplace, and this has been a cause for concern since, like I showed you, that many women in professional roles these days especially overwhelmingly support censorship, which in Nintendo's case is the last thing they kind of need right now. While all of this is good technically from Nintendo to have a strong legal and corporate backbone, it doesn't leave the fans in a better spot, because Nintendo's public image has been ruined thanks to how disastrously malicious they've been when it comes to wanting to destroy not just Palworld, but many other entities too that also threaten them, like earlier this year when Nintendo actually lost a lawsuit in Costa Rica because they tried to sue a supermarket for using the name Super Mario, as you can see here. But they lost because the name Super and Super Mario in this case was not because of Nintendo's character. It was called Super because Costa Rica uses super in business names to tell customers that the market they're going to is a supermarket over a regular one. So therefore, Nintendo lost that one. Or even 10 years ago, as seen here from Vice, when Nintendo sued a diehard Nintendo fan, and this is crazy, for having a PAX-themed Pokemon kickoff party. So the person who got sued is Ramar Larkin Jones, who is a cafe manager at the time. He hosted this unofficial party for fun, and he used Pikachu and Snivy on the posters to promote the party. It was a get-together meant to have Super Smash Bros. To play and everyone hang out and a DJ playing. But Nintendo said no, and that they now owed them money. Like, how stupid is that? The event was not even for profit, by the way. It was free. So I guess you can't even have a birthday party that is Pokemon themed if you put Nintendo's Pokemon on the invites. Otherwise, people like Devin Pritchard will find you and then suck your bank account dry, which is just lovely. And Ramar actually ended up setting up a GoFundMe to play Nintendo because he couldn't afford the lawsuit. As you can see here from 10 years ago, Ramar was able to fundraise almost $5 grand, which was good, but even then Nintendo was still scummy as hell for doing this in the first place. And I honestly wouldn't be surprised if Ramar never played a Nintendo game again, because I wouldn't. That's just terrible PR for them. That's not the end of stupidity with Nintendo either. Because in 2023, Makani Tran, as seen here, was disqualified from a Pokemon trading card game tournament because he nervously laughed when the judges asked him for his preferred pronouns, and no, I'm not kidding. So the judges claimed that Tran here violated their inclusivity policy that Nintendo enforces upon their players. But Tran pushed back, saying that he let out a nervous laugh in the moment because he was not expecting to be asked that when he was just there to, play the game. As Makani Tran said, the judge looked at me and said, okay, just wanted to check to be safe safe, I go by they, them, so don't be a jerk about it. Ah, of course, the judge who got a literal teenager disqualified from a Pokemon card tournament is someone who goes by they, them because of course it is. Again, even after Tran apologized, this they, them judge felt that it wasn't enough to heal their clearly fragile ego, and they instead made a scene, which then led to Tran being taken out of the tournament officially. Tran would reiterate more as he said here, the little laugh at the end was because I was trying not to be awkward, and because I was just stating the exact thing Alex, that's his opponent at the time in the game, had just stated, and it was kind of silly for me in that scenario. But regardless, he was made an example out of, and again, these are the people that are employed and okayed by Nintendo of America specifically to enact these rules. And it's things like this that are allowed to happen because of Nintendo supporting and pushing concepts like DEI so much these days. After all, another person who works in Nintendo, which Legal Mindset, another YouTuber, brought up is Jennifer Liu. Here's Legal Mindset going over Jennifer Liu's work history, where she used to work at Sony, but now she works in Nintendo, specifically at the Pokemon Company. Here's Jennifer Liu via her own public profile. As always, don't harass anyone. Let's just observe what's going on here like adults. But anyway, Jennifer has worked with the Pokemon Company since 2020, which is not surprising, given that 2020 was when a lot of DEI-related efforts and initiatives were being forced and paid for by USAID across many westernized companies and subsidiaries. Look it up, that's true. I'm sure it's just a coincidence, right? Doubt it, but the more you know. Anyway, Jennifer Liu was also interviewed as seen in this post from hsuunited.com. I won't show you the interview in full to save us both the time, but I'll paraphrase it for you. Jennifer confirms that she is a part of AABA, which stands for Asian American Bar Association, which is a group that works to connect Asian Americans in professional settings. That's not the problem here. The problem is that Jennifer describes herself as the former president and co-chair of the in-house council committee. This is an anti-bias and diversity committee that focuses specifically on DEI efforts like addressing discrimination and promoting equitable opportunities in law firms and corporations. This is a long way of saying that she's pro-DEI and wokeness, for lack of a better word, if you will, and that she also supports and protects Pokemon specifically now, which if you haven't noticed, for many of Pokemon's games these days, the diversity push has been astronomical compared to previous games, and that is definitely not putting that lightly, dude. It's really no surprise that games like Pokemon Go had a controversial update like a year ago that completely ruined the character models, as you can see in these examples, where the characters went from having actual feminine bodies to becoming some weird mixture of both genders to appease the usual types. We know that Nintendo is pro-DEI since you can simply find it on their websites, like the Pokemon Company is seen here, as plain as day for all to see their commitment to DEI, which has clearly not stopped. So the point of this is that what I'm trying to say is that the new heads of Nintendo of America are the exact kind of people who will not really fix the problems that are currently plaguing Nintendo, but simply enforce and probably make them worse in the long run based on their past actions alone. If Shibata was not willing to stop the imperial march of DEI to invest everything Nintendo related before on his various positions, as either CEO of Nintendo of Australia or I guess Europe, which is a combined almost 20 years of service to Nintendo alone, what makes you think he will now? Devin Pritchard is hardcore pro-censorship and lawsuit proven already. There's no way that Nintendo's overzealous push to sue everything into the Shadow Realm will suddenly get better with Devin now running the show. And mark my words, like every company, when a female CEO gets promoted, these places are going to be filled to the brim as quickly as possible with other like-minded activists too. And at that point, Nintendo of America might as well as rebrand to like Sweet Baby Inc. version 2 pretty much, because their belief systems will definitely just intertwine pretty easily at that point. If you ever needed a visualizer of what the difference is between Nintendo's previous overall president, whose name was Tatsumi Kimishima, versus current Nintendo president, whose name is Shantaro Furukawa, just look at this image on screen here of the games and how the female characters specifically have been depicted when these two presidents were in control of Nintendo's properties based on when they were. As you can see, the current sitting president on the right there tells you everything that you need to know. Plenty of DEI, ugly women, and vague body types, versus the baseness of Kimishima, who actually did allow Nintendo to make male and especially female characters look gender accurate. Finally, I want to end this video with one final stupid thing, which is Nintendo responding to the United States government. If you don't know, they were using the Pokemon theme song and intro for their ICE video about capturing illegals recently. As seen here from IGN, Nintendo did not authorize this at all. Of course, Nintendo fans want Nintendo now to sue the United States government, but they won't be doing that. One, because the government of America has deeper pockets than Nintendo, but two, because despite them hating what they did with their Pokemon song, unfortunately for Nintendo, that's still fair use. It's as much a meme as someone making a video on YouTube as a joke, but it does sicken me to see Nintendo fans just immediately try to turn to censorship because of something they don't like. They're just like their overlords. They want to censor everything. Although you did have YouTubers like Mother's Basement, a anime YouTuber, who said this about the whole Pokemon Ice thing, as it reads here. That Pokemon video is some heinously evil stuff, using a piece of our collective childhoods to dehumanize targets of state violence. I never want to hear another complaint about injecting politics into our hobbies from the right. Mother's Basement, in case you can't tell, is showing his lack of basic history skills here, but the liberal side actually, in case you don't know, has been spending decades working to ruin and inject as much political jargon as they can into the favorite hobbies of many, and you, Mother's Basement, and others did nothing about it because you clearly agreed with the politics. But now that the same things are being used against you, now it's suddenly bad and evil. Wow. Interesting how that works, isn't it? Unfortunately for Mother's Basement, who usually just comes off as condescending at the best of times, this just proves that this guy doesn't really know what he's talking about at all here. The fact that he laid quiet, okay, as video games and anime and more became increasingly political and with the whole localizers and all of that, but really did nothing to fix any of it because they didn't want to, anger companies or, oh my god, lose access. That tells you everything you need to know. These are the exact kind of fans of, being like a Nintendrone, if you will, that Nintendo wants in their ranks these days. People who will unhinge their jaws and lay on their knees and hands and slurp up anything that Nintendo gives them, no matter how much DEI infested or stupid it is, because they truly believe that they're on the right side of history when they really aren't. When in reality, all they really are is pro-censorship, anti-freedom, and most importantly of all, a bit stupid in the brain too. Plus, saying that it's dehumanizing, these people are literally illegal in America. Whatever. This video's good enough anyway. Let's just move on. But that's what I got for you today, okay? Nintendo's future is looking, as we can all pretty much agree right now, very pro-censorship and DEI, it seems. Somehow more than usual, which is, alarming. But what do you think about all of this? And should Nintendo sue the United States government? Personally, I doubt it because, again, it is fair use. But if there's one thing for sure, Nintendo has never been more anti-consumer, anti-freedom, and anti what they used to uphold as their values than they are right now. And if you ask me, it saddens me greatly. But as always, thank you for watching, subscribe, see you next time. Oh, and Nintendo, stop being annoying. Thanks.